Today we're peeling back the layers on a narrative that's been echoing through the NBA media for quite some time now. The excuses of superstar players. And you know we're talking about none other than LeBron James, who's been under the spotlight yet again. And this time, we're exposing the excuses like never before. In the ever-evolving landscape of the NBA, one thing that grinds my gears is the constant excuse that superstar players like LeBron James don't have enough help. Come on now. In 2024, we've seen a shift where fans are more invested in individuals than the actual team. Exhibit A. Kevin Durant's journey from Golden State to Brooklyn and then to Phoenix. LeBron James is no stranger to this trend, with his stints in Miami, Cleveland, and now LA. These two are like the poster children for the modern player empowerment era, and some might even say they've had a hand in shaping the last decade of basketball. It's all your fault, LeBron and KD. Now, let's zero in on LeBron's favorite scapegoat, Anthony Davis. Since 2020, AD has been the punching bag for all of the Lakers' problems. Last year, he was practically Mr. Glass during the playoffs, getting more blame than LeBron himself. Despite being the defensive powerhouse with 22 points, 14 boards, and 3 blocks, ESPN and Fox Sports had a field day whenever AD slipped up. Fast forward to this year, and AD is once again on the receiving end of the blame game, even though he's been LA's defensive anchor and the go-to scorer. Lakers are 12th in defensive rating, and AD is 2nd in defensive win shares. But hey, who needs facts when we can pin it all on the scapegoat, right? This season, I've got to give credit where credit is due. AD, my man, you've been massively underrated. The Lakers' 500 record, that's all because of him and his defensive prowess. Unfortunately, he's stuck in a half-credit, all-blame situation. They're trying to make him the scapegoat, but let's set the record straight. AD is the unsung hero of the Lakers this season. Now let's talk about the age-old LeBron has no help narrative. Come on, folks, we've heard this one for a decade. When the season kicks off, it's all sunshine and rainbows. LeBron's got a killer team. The media hypes up his teammates, and they're ready to conquer. Case in point, the 2018 Cavs post-Kyrie trade. Isaiah Thomas, Dwayne Wade, LeBron, Kevin Love. A legitimate team, right? They made some noise against the Warriors. But oh boy, fast forward to the Cavs 2.0 after the trade deadline. And it's a different story. No chance of winning, and 24 hours later, they're the favorites. Now that's a narrative twist, worthy of Hollywood.
Ernie, this team had no chance of winning or even getting to the finals 24 hours ago. Now they, to me, become the favorites.
So, let's rewind the clock to 2018, a time when the Cavaliers were supposedly the clear favorites. Oh, how the tables have turned. Looking back, we might dub them a terrible team, but let's not forget the hoopla that surrounded them back then. Those Cavs were being praised left, right, and center for their trades and the addition of LeBron's so-called much-needed help. I mean, who could forget LeBron's enthusiastic declaration after the trade? We've got an effing squad. The media bought into it, the fans bought into it, and the Cavs were heavy favorites to make it to the NBA Finals. But how quickly things change. Fast forward to the playoffs, and the Cavs were averaging 101.1 points per game, not too shabby for the so-called worst team ever. LeBron himself was dropping 34.0 points. Talk about carrying the load. Now, let's throw it back even further to 1989, where Michael Jordan's Bulls were putting up 99.6 points on average. Wait, what? That's less than the Cavs. And MJ? He was averaging a whopping 34.8 points, higher than King James. Looks like both superstars had adequate offensive help, doesn't it? But here's the kicker. Jordan's Bulls faced tougher competition in a more competitive East, while LeBron's East in 2018 was, well, frankly awful. Jordan's 1989 Bulls ranked first in defensive win shares and second in defensive plus-minus during the playoffs, leaving LeBron's 2018 Cavaliers in the dust. Oh, and did I mention that LeBron himself had the worst defensive rating in the entire league that year? Ouch. Now, let's talk about LeBron's 2007 Cavaliers. The narrative paints them as a team with no supporting cast, but let's fact-check that. Cleveland was a defensive powerhouse, ranking 2nd in rebounds, 4th in defensive rating, and 5th in opponents' points per game. And contrary to popular belief, LeBron had Big Z, a former All-Star, and Larry Hughes, an all-defensive player, on his squad. It's only in hindsight, 15 years later, that this team is dubbed trash. But how quickly things change. Fast forward to the playoffs, and the Cavs were averaging 101.1 points per game, not too shabby for the so-called worst team ever. LeBron himself was dropping 34.0 points. Talk about carrying the load. Now, Let's throw it back even further to 1989, where Michael Jordan's Bulls were putting up 99.6 points on average. Wait, what? That's less than the Cavs. And MJ? He was averaging a whopping 34.8 points, higher than King James. Looks like both superstars had adequate offensive help, doesn't it? But here's the kicker. Jordan's Bulls faced tougher competition in a more competitive East, while LeBron's East in 2018 was, well, frankly awful. Jordan's 1989 Bulls ranked first in defensive win shares and second in defensive plus-minus during the playoffs, leaving LeBron's 2018 Cavaliers in the dust. Oh, and did I mention that LeBron himself had the worst defensive rating in the entire league that year? Ouch. Now, let's talk about LeBron's 2007 Cavaliers. The narrative paints them as a team with no supporting cast, but let's fact-check that. Cleveland was a defensive powerhouse, ranking second in rebounds, fourth in defensive rating, and fifth in opponents' points per game. And contrary to popular belief, LeBron had Big Z, a former All-Star, and Larry Hughes, an all-defensive player, on his squad. It's only in hindsight, 15 years later, that this team is dubbed trash. The stats don't lie. The 2007 Cavs averaged 88.8 points per game, with LeBron putting up 25.1 points. Now, let's compare that to the 1998 Bulls, who averaged 93.1 points, with MJ dropping 32.4 points. Shockingly, Michael Jordan scored a higher percentage of his team's points than LeBron in 2007. Detectives, gather round. The narrative just got debunked. Contrary to the popular belief, Jordan's supporting cast in 1998 scored less than LeBron's in 2007. So, why does LeBron get a standing ovation for winning 0 games in the finals, while MJ gets discredited for beating the champion Pistons twice in that year's Eastern Conference Finals? It's time to question the narratives, folks. But before we dive into it, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. We're breaking down the basketball drama regularly, and you don't want to miss out on the real talk. Now let's jump right into the court. You know, when we talk about LeBron James and the media's excuses, it's like we're wading through a sea of narratives that cloud the cold, hard facts. Let's peel back the layers, starting with the 2007 Cavaliers. Now, they might be remembered as the team with no help, but guess what? They won the championship. That's right, a team that's often discredited actually hoisted the trophy. But the road to the finals for the 2007 Cavs was, in reality, a walk in the park. The Wizards were missing key players, the Nets were without their third leading scorer, and the Pistons were missing crucial pieces. Compare that to Michael Jordan's journey in 1998, where every playoff round had healthier and stronger opponents, Nets, Hornets, and even the Indiana Pacers with Reggie Miller. It's like comparing a high-stakes game to a kiddie pool. The East in 2007 and 2018, let's just say they were, well, not the glory days. Now, let's address the supposed savior of MJ's career, Scottie Pippen. According to some LeBron fans, Pippen descended from the heavens, saw Jordan struggling, and magically turned him into an NBA champion. But let's rewind to Pippen's first playoff game with MJ. 0 points, 2 boards, 2 assists on 0.5 shooting. Not exactly superhero stats, right? Yet he's hailed as the savior. Now compare that to AD in 2020, Kyrie in 2015, and Wade in 2011. If Pippen saved Jordan, what did these guys do in their playoff debuts to save LeBron? And here's the kicker. Let's not cherry-pick one-game wonders. Let's look at the entire first series with both legends. Do you notice a pattern? Spoiler alert. The first guy, Scottie Pippen, averaged just 10 points with 1 start in that series. So, if you're claiming Pippen saved Jordan, be consistent and give the same credit to D-Wade, AD, and Kyrie with LeBron James. So, what's the theme of this video? Disparity. It's the word that echoes through the narratives surrounding Jordan and LeBron. The media and fans, for some reason, think Jordan had a super team since day one with stacked rosters. Meanwhile, LeBron supposedly never had a shred of help or a so-called super team. That's the disparity in the stories we hear. Enjoyed this content? Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more.